The coronavirus was started by the Wu-Tang Clan in China. Since then, it's spread like a 3-bit sponge monkey with a greased-up sprocket thumb. But there is no need to panic. The science nerds say we can get through this. All we have to do is remember one simple thing. Crap, I really should have written it down. But the important thing is this. Nope, it's gone again. The coronavirus. I really can't remember a worse pandemic.
You came into office with President Obama at the heels of a massive recession, on the heels of a very unpopular war that ripped this country apart and separated us from some of our allies. That was a tough entrance.
Saddam is dangerous. The world would be a better place without him. But the reason he poses a growing danger to the United States and its allies is that he possesses chemical and biological weapons.
If you are elected, sir, you will face what I would argue is even a worse situation. We have right now paramilitary or federal troops on the streets of American cities. We have people crying out for police reform. And we have this pandemic.
Look, this guy has no sense of empathy or concern for people. And so the younger generation now tells me how tough things are. Give me a break. No. I have no empathy for it. Give me a break. Look, this guy has no sense of empathy or concern for people. I have no empathy for it. He has absolutely zero sense of empathy. Have you ever heard a word him talking about how badly he feels about the losses?
All Americans mourn by your side. Your loved ones will not have died in vain. We are one nation. We grieve together and we heal together. I can never imagine your pain or the depth of your anguish.
Unnecessarily, now we have over 120 million dead from COVID.
Well, you know, if you become president, if you're inaugurated on January 20th of next year, it will be then your problem to deal with this pandemic, which, you know, we have to assume will still be raging because not enough is being done to try to beat it back. Walk us through what you would do differently, and assuming it actually by then will be worse.
Well, first of all, you may recall, Joy, I, all the way back in January, warned him this pandemic was coming.
But this is not a major threat for the people in the United States, and this is not something that the citizens of the United States right now should be worried about.
People are worried. Should they be worried? Are they worried unnecessarily? And what should they be doing?
No, I don't think people should be frightened. I mean, the risk right now, today, currently, is really relatively low for the American public. But so right now, don't worry about it. Be more concerned about influenza, which is going into a second peak for the season, than coronavirus.
All the way back in January, warned him this pandemic was coming.
It's also a question of leadership that Americans can see that the president has been leading the country through the coronavirus crisis from the very beginning. And all Joe Biden has done is criticize him every step along the way. Biden has been looking for relevance here and a role for himself when he has none. He claims he's been warning everybody since January about the virus, but if that's true, then why did he campaign normally into the second week of March? Biden tells nothing but a stack of lies about what he was saying and what he was doing and warning people of, while the president was out doing the hard work of actually leading the country. It used to be that we all got together and approached the big problem together as Americans, but Joe Biden has thrown that out the window. He's a political opportunist. He's trying to take a public health crisis and make it a political weapon, but Americans can see that the president has been the one actually doing the job and not sitting on his couch in his basement throwing random political bombs at his opponents.
This is nonsense. Joe Biden was still holding campaign rallies in March, and when Donald Trump proposed banning travel from China in late January in an effort to limit the damage from the coronavirus, Biden claimed this was no time for Donald Trump's xenophobia.
Coronavirus emanated from China. A national emergency, worldwide alerts. This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysterical xenophobia, and fear-mongering. I talked about what we needed to do. I talked early on about the Defense Act that allows him to go and say to a company, manufacture the following things.
Walk us through, she says, walk us through what you would do differently.
Walk us through what you would do differently.
He then makes 7 statements. every one of the recommendations that he's going to do next year is already being done. He says, I've been talking about the Defense Production Act. Well, President Trump used that in March.
We'll be invoking the Defense Production Act just in case we need it. And $1 billion for securing supplies under the Defense Protection Act. And as you know, I've enacted the act. We've used it.
Needed to do. I talked early on about the Defense Act that allows him to go and say to a company, manufacture the following things, and so on. So I mean, he has made every serious mistake, and he has absolutely bludgeoned people who disagree with him and the Republican governors and the like. I speak with docs every 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week, for an hour and 15 minutes. They predict among them that there are going to be over 200,000 dead by the time we get to Election Day.
Should Americans be prepared for the likelihood that there will be 100,000 Americans who die from this virus?
The answer is yes. We need, as sobering a number as that is, we should be prepared for it.
100 to 200,000. It will probably, unfortunately, get worse before it gets better.
They predict that this is just going to get worse and worse. So I'm going to be faced with a circumstance, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected president, where we're going to have to take significant action to do a number of things. One, you need more testing. You need to be able to test and trace.
Today, to provide an update on the unprecedented testing capacity developed by the United States, the most advanced and robust testing system anywhere in the world, by far.
You need to be in a position where you're able to insist that everyone wear masks, everyone socially distanced.
He says we need to have everybody wear masks. Well, the CDC and the White House Coronavirus Task Force recommended that months ago.
That businesses do not open if they cannot do that. We need to make sure that people are in a position where they can, in fact, maintain their businesses through the stimulus that's been out, that the Congress has put out.
He said, you know, we need to make sure that businesses continue to be able to stay alive. Well, that's called the CARES Act, and it has over nearly $900 billion in forgivable loans to small businesses.
We need to keep people on their feet. We need to make sure we have health insurance, as well as making sure no one has to pay for contracting COVID and or being treated for COVID.
We need to make sure that nobody, he says, who has COVID, has to pay for it. Well, the president already did that months ago.
There's a whole range of things we have and must do and can do. In addition, I would suggest right now, and I've urged the president to do this, right now there may be a vaccine, God willing, after the first of the year. We should have a command officer now.
And he says we need to have somebody in command right now in order to oversee the production and distribution of the vaccine. Well, that person's already in place. It is a general who's the head of the Army Military Command, Materials Command, and President Trump appointed him on May 15th to do exactly that job.
We should have a command officer now. We should be spending $25 billion to put together exactly how that will be distributed.
And we need to spend $25 billion to do that. Well, Congress appropriated $10 billion, and the Department of Health and Human Services has found billions more, and they're spending it. And if they need more, they're going to get more from Congress.
How will we do that? Where will it go? How will we get it done well? That needs planning.
I mean, here it is. He's given a great opportunity. Tell us what you do differently. And all 7 things that he lays out are things that the administration has exactly done.
Carl,
Can't the guy come up with one new idea? Just one new idea. That'd be all we'd ask for.
You know, he's also against the travel ban 10 days after the first identified case. Also against the subsequent travel ban. Also against the quarantines. Countless hundreds of thousands of Americans likely didn't contract the virus because of it. It gave us time to build the PPE that we needed and the ventilators. And Donald Trump did all that. And he did it against the recommendations of many. Those 3 decisions right there, he was against. They save lives.
Well, we've seen Biden before. We see him a lot of places. We see him in, you know, we've had an emergency in our town, and somebody says, well, you know, if I'd been in charge, here's what I would have done. Or somebody, you know, we have a big controversy. Well, you know, if I'd been the guy in charge, let me tell you how I'd done it differently. And he can't do it. Just go look at the Reid thing. Better yet, read my column tomorrow morning where I lay it out with what he says and what was already done. And it's just amazing to me. is this the best the guy can do? I mean, I think what has happened in that basement is that he's gotten lazy, mentally lazy, and so he thinks he can get away with this because he goes on places like Joy Reid and he doesn't get challenged. Let him get in front of a real journalist and let's see how well he handles it. What if somebody said, well, wait a minute, all those things have already been done. What I ask you, what differently would you do? You haven't suggested anything different, and let's see how he'd answer that. But he's getting away with murder right now, and it's going to be a mistake for him because he can't keep this up for the other 104 days left in the campaign.
And in Portland, protesters continuing to clash with federal agents. The Department of Homeland Security says it will not retreat, while Democrats like Nancy Pelosi compare them to Nazi stormtroopers. The Trump administration hitting back. Take a look.
I'm disgusted, Griff. Look, so far this year, CBP, just CBP alone, we've lost 10 personnel, 10 in the line of duty. And for her to refer to those men and women as stormtroopers, it's absolutely disgusting. It's just reckless and it's untrue.
All right, Shannon, the language that liberals are using to describe federal law enforcement officials, absolutely disgraceful. They're there to just arrest anarchists, protect federal property, stop illegal gun trafficking, and now they're compared to Nazis. Just disgusting.
Yeah, and they're super frustrated. These are people who are out on the front lines trying to protect and save lives. You have Congressman Bobby Rush, who is a Democrat from Illinois, where they have massive problems. This is actually what he said today.
To instigate a race war. He want to have black folks, white fighting white folks, so he can rise up and say, I'm the real grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, and I'm the president. Re-elect me.
That the president wants to instigate a race war. Quote, he wants to have black folks fighting white folks so he can rise up and say, I'm the real grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan and I'm the president, re-elect me. I mean, these accusations are incredible. And when this thing is politicized, it gets away from the people like the ones we saw today at the White House with the president.
Yeah, Juan, I know you do not agree with that kind of language used against American law enforcement officials.
Well, in this case, you know, Jesse, I think this is a pure political play. Trump is trying to change the conversation.
Juan,
from his
I'm
failed
saying, do
handling
you
of the
agree with the language?
Jesse, you went on and on. Jesse, you went on and on. Can I speak for a second?
Yeah,
because
answer the
what
question.
we've got here is Trump. I'm answering the question. I'm telling you, this president is trying to change the conversation away from his failed handling of the coronavirus.
All right.
And I'm telling you, this is the same tactic he used before 2018 when he was telling people that a caravan, a threatening caravan was coming across
Juan, you dodged
the Mexican border, and that was the real problem. No, I'm not dodging. I'm answering, and maybe you don't want to hear it. But I think
I want to hear you say you disagree with them calling them Nazis, Juan.
No, I don't agree with anybody calling anybody a Nazi, but I'm going to tell you what conservatives, what Republicans have to say about this, Jesse, because I think you need to hear it. The conservative New York Post editorial page today said, Mr. Trump, don't send any troops into New York City. Tom Ridge, Michael Chertoff, Republicans, former heads of Department of Homeland Security.
They're not troops,
Juan. Both said today this is inappropriate behavior. This is former heads, Republicans of Department of Homeland Security. In fact, Ridge
So are
said
you okay with the violence in Chicago, Juan?
Can you stop for a second? I'm just telling you that Ridge himself said today
I don't care
that the DHS is not to become a presidential militia. The Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, says he worries about this action undermining Americans' trust and love of the military because these men look like they are U.S. military in a domestic situation. And I want you, Jesse, to take a look at this tape because this is mothers, the Wall of Mothers in Oregon, taking a stand against this frightful-looking Trump agents with all their arms and camouflage uniforms and unmarked vans. I also want you, Jesse, to take a look at this Navy veteran wearing a T-shirt that says Navy, and he's being beaten by these men for what? For asking them why aren't they abiding by their constitutional oath instead of coming out there. This is really a horrible moment. I'm so glad that local leaders and Americans of all parties, Republicans and Democrats, are taking a stand
all right, well,
against
I don't really think you know what
totalitarian
you're talking about, Juan, because the task force that may be going into Chicago
You don't know what you're
US
talking
Marshals,
about because you're buying into
ATF
spin.
agents,
You're buying
and
into
FBI
a whole lot of
agents.
spin
And you know what
that's
they're
intended-
doing? They're
Yeah,
going over
this is
ballistics for illegal gang members firing weapons into crowds. They're looking into illegal guns that are on the streets. They're trying to solve crimes. And they're trying to help people live without getting shot by gang members. Kennedy, what do you think about the federal government coming into these cities, protecting federal property, arresting anarchists, and trying to save lives?
I understand the federal agents who work in these federal buildings are trying to protect the federal buildings. And when they're doing that lawfully from within the confines of those buildings, making sure that they are not set ablaze with fireworks and Molotov cocktails, that's okay. I do have a problem with the federal government sending in agents from the outside to do the job that local law enforcement is supposed to do.
Yeah, but they're not doing that.
And they are not. They're not doing that because the mayors here are following. They are not leading. And, you know, my family still lives in Oregon.
I just still can't believe Juan would not condemn that these Democrats calling U.S. law enforcement Nazis.
Well, you know, the thing is, it's really easy to disband a crime unit. It's really easy to mock police presence. It's really easy to reject government aid when it's not your problem, right? I mean, I guess we should listen to Juan and Nancy and take no for an answer, right? If Portland doesn't want our help, let the city go to hell, okay? If that's what they want. But I wished on a personal level that somebody came to help me, because my problem was also a local problem. I don't want to belabor it, but when my neighborhood was attacked, it was assaulted, and the damage, I believe, is permanent. True, it was a local problem, like all these local problems are, in Atlanta, Minneapolis, Santa Monica, Seattle, Portland, the Bronx. All local problems, all abandoned by local politicians, and all mocked by the media because the media doesn't live there. The media doesn't, this is not their problem, so they call it a local problem. I had an epiphany that when somebody looks at lawlessness and says it's a local problem, you can do that to dismiss all bad behaviors, from even the smallest, not wearing a mask, local problem. Vandalism, arson, local problem. Gang violence, local problem. Police brutality, local problem. How about slave labor? The Uyghurs, huh? Local problem. Keep buying your Nikes. An earthquake, that's a local problem. You can see how it absolves the left of any moral judgment. They can dismiss anything. And the reason why they do it, it's not that it's a local problem, it's that it's not their problem. So I say let them have it. Let them have Portland. Let them see where it goes. They've destroyed liberal cities by becoming more and more liberal. Let it go. Because inevitably people are going to have to move. But when they move to non-liberal cities, don't bring your crap there. Don't bring your stupid ideas and your toxic ideology to cities that don't need it, because you're going to ruin them too.